The sun was just beginning to rise over the sleepy town, casting golden streaks across the rooftops and painting the streets in a warm, gentle light. In the quiet of the early morning, everything seemed peaceful, almost unnaturally so. Birds chirped softly in the distance, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the trees lining the suburban avenues. Most people were still tucked inside their homes, clinging to the last remnants of sleep, unaware that this ordinary morning was about to be anything but ordinary. On the outskirts of the town, just beyond the last row of neatly lined houses, there was a small park that served as the unofficial playground for the local residents. It was a place where children laughed and chased each other in carefree circles, where joggers and dog walkers found their rhythm, and where elderly couples sat on benches, sipping their morning coffee and exchanging stories from decades past. It was the kind of place that seemed frozen in time, a serene corner untouched by the chaos of the outside world. But as the town's calm morning stretched on, an undercurrent of tension began to ripple through the park, a tension that would soon erupt into an unforgettable act of heroism. Two German shepherds, Max and Luna, were already awake and alert, their sharp ears twitching at the slightest sound. They belonged to a local officer, Officer James Harrison, who had trained them for years in obedience, protection, and search and rescue. Max, the older of the two, had a coat as dark as midnight with streaks of gray around his snout, a sign of his experience and wisdom. Luna, younger but no less formidable, had a sleek, golden brown coat and eyes that glimmered with intelligence and intensity. Together, they were a team built not just on training but on trust, loyalty, and an unspoken bond that allowed them to anticipate danger long before it arrived. That morning, Officer Harrison had brought them to the park for a routine walk, a time when the dogs could stretch their legs and enjoy a break from the regimented life of a police K-9 unit. The leash felt taut in his hands as Max and Luna moved ahead, noses to the ground, alert and curious. At first, everything seemed normal, just the usual mix of joggers, dog owners, and early risers. But as the trio approached a shaded grove near the edge of the park, a sudden shift in the atmosphere made both dogs freeze. Their ears perked up sharply, and their bodies tensed like coiled springs. It started with a faint sound, almost imperceptible over the morning chorus of birds, a low, menacing growl that seemed out of place. Max's hackles rose, and Luna emitted a quiet, warning bark. Officer Harrison stopped in his tracks, scanning the grove with a trained eye. "Stay close," he murmured, his voice calm but filled with an edge of concern. Something was wrong. He could feel it in his gut, the way an experienced officer feels before a storm breaks. Then it happened. From behind a cluster of trees, a figure emerged, a man, disheveled and frantic, his eyes wide with desperation. In his arms, he held a small child, barely more than a toddler, who was crying in terror. The man's movements were erratic, almost desperate, and the child clung to him tightly, unaware of the danger lurking nearby. Officer Harrison's heart pounded as he realized the situation. This was not a simple walk in the park. Something far more sinister was unfolding. Max and Luna reacted instantly. They positioned themselves between Officer Harrison and the approaching man, their bodies low and ready, teeth bared just enough to signal a warning without aggression. But the man, perhaps driven by fear, anger, or some darker intent, did not stop. He lunged forward, and in that split second, the peaceful morning exploded into chaos. The dogs sprang into action with a precision that seemed almost choreographed. Max moved first, circling the man with calculated agility, his deep growl reverberating through the grove. Luna followed, flanking the man on the other side, eyes locked on the child's safety. Together, they formed a living barrier, their movements fluid and instinctive. The man swung his arm, trying to push past them, but Max intercepted, grabbing the edge of the man's jacket with a firm, controlled bite that was more about containment than harm. Luna barked sharply, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade, and the man staggered back, panic flashing across his face. Officer Harrison didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, hands raised in a calming gesture, but inside he knew it was the dogs who had bought him the critical seconds he needed. "It's okay, it's okay," he called, trying to reach the man's reason through the fog of chaos. "Put the child down. Nobody wants to hurt you." The man froze, torn between desperation and the sudden realization that he was no match for the coordinated team before him. The child whimpered, eyes wide, looking from the man to the dogs and back again, sensing the tension but unable to comprehend its full meaning. Max and Luna remained steady, their focus unwavering, guarding the child as if their lives depended on it. In the midst of this standoff, a new layer of urgency entered the scene. A few park-goers had noticed the commotion and were beginning to gather at a safe distance, their phones raised to capture what was happening. The tension in the grove was palpable, electric, every second stretching longer than it should. Officer Harrison could feel sweat prickling at his brow, but his voice remained steady, calm, commanding. "Let him go, now. Luna, Max, stay." The dogs responded instantly, adjusting their positions, ears twitching, muscles coiled. The man hesitated, then made a sudden, panic movement, trying to flee with the child still in his grasp. That's when Max lunged, not in aggression, but in precise, tactical intervention. He intercepted the man's path, knocking him off balance, while Luna darted in to gently but firmly block the other side. The child's small body was shielded between the two dogs, safe from harm, as the man flailed, struggling against a force he could not understand. Time seemed to slow. Every movement was charged with intensity, every second a delicate balance between safety and disaster. Officer Harrison moved closer, handcuffs at the ready, while calling out to the gathering crowd to stay back. The man, now realizing escape was impossible, dropped to his knees, tears and sweat mixing on his face. The child's crying grew softer, less frantic, sensing that the immediate danger was passing. Max and Luna held their ground, their eyes never leaving the man, their bodies a perfect combination of strength and control. Finally, Officer Harrison stepped forward, placing a firm hand on the man's shoulder. "It's over," he said quietly, but with unmistakable authority. The man's shoulders slumped, and he allowed himself to be restrained, the weight of his actions settling heavily upon him. The crowd, who had watched in stunned silence, began to murmur, whispers of awe and disbelief rippling through the air. No one could stop talking about what they had witnessed, the sheer courage, precision, and intelligence of the two German shepherds who had turned an almost tragic event into a story of heroism. As the adrenaline faded, Officer Harrison knelt beside the child, gently lifting them into his arms. "You're safe now," he murmured, rocking the toddler softly. Max and Luna stayed close, vigilant even as the danger had passed, their loyalty and instinct unwavering. The park, which had, moments ago been a scene of chaos and fear, slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy, though everyone present knew they had witnessed something extraordinary. By the time the local authorities arrived to take over, the story of Max and Luna had already begun to spread. Phones buzzed with video clips and photos, social media feeds were flooded with praise, and news outlets clamored to report on the heroes of the morning. But for Officer Harrison, it was never about recognition or accolades. It was about trust. The unbreakable bond between a handler and his dogs, the instinctual courage of two creatures who had chosen, in that critical moment, to act with bravery and precision. As the sun climbed higher, bathing the park in full light, Officer Harrison walked Max and Luna back home, the child safely returned to their grateful parents. The dogs' tails wagged gently, eyes still alert, ready for the next challenge, the next call to action. And though the town would remember that morning for years to come, what mattered most was the lesson that Max and Luna had demonstrated without words. That true heroism often comes on four paws, silent but fierce, and that courage and loyalty can manifest in the most unexpected forms. The story of that morning would be told and retold, each retelling amplifying the incredible reality of what had happened. But those who had been there, those who had felt the tension and witnessed the precision of Max and Luna's actions firsthand, knew the truth. This was no ordinary act, no staged rescue for the cameras. This was instinct, training, and heart combined into a single, breathtaking moment of heroism. And though the world would see the images and watch the videos, only those who had been present truly understood the raw power, the undeniable presence, and the unwavering courage of these two remarkable German shepherds.